Okay, this is live number 3 in series 2, and today our topic is a continuation of last week in how do we stay connected with our teams no matter where we are working. So last week I actually gave you some insight that fits into this topic about how we show up with our teams on a daily basis. And I suggested to you that you do all of the things you would do in the office, such as say good morning, how are you, hello, but take it a step further, just like you would in the office, and let people know when you're going on a coffee break or your lunch break. And then I suggested you go one step beyond that and you invite your colleagues to take a coffee break with you or a lunch break with you. And you can do that several ways. You can just announce, hey, I'm going for coffee. Anybody want to join me? And that's a hint that we do a virtual coffee break and we all step away from our desks. Or we can actually go get our coffee or tea or Monster drink or whatever we are drinking and bring it back to our desk, get on a video call, and actually have a coffee break together like we would do if we were in the office. Now, before I get hate mail, I am not suggesting that we can or that we should make virtual working or distributed teams try to be identical to working in the office. It is not, and we have to employ different tactics. But we can still build those relationships and we can then still involve people in the aspects of our workday that are not strictly about working. So that's just a reminder of one of the things that I mentioned last week. I hope that some of you have been able to put that into play in your work environment. And if you haven't, tomorrow, invite your colleagues to have coffee or invite them to have lunch. Now, we're going to go on with a few other topics. And I am going to post a URL in the chat room because I am a firm believer that we don't all have to do everything and reinvent the wheel. If there are resources out there that we can use, then we should use them. So a colleague, Lisette Sutherland, has a website called Collaboration Superpowers, and she has already done a great job of collecting different types of activities that we can do when working virtually with our teams to help connect them. So I have posted that in the chat. And I'm really going to try not to sneeze today because I don't know what is going on. But I apologize if I mute you all for a second. So we talked about connecting in the unofficial ways. What are some official ways that we can stay connected? Another one is icebreakers. Now, you know I'm a firm believer that we don't want to bring activities into the workplace that feel forced or not natural. So be really careful when you're doing these activities that it doesn't start to feel like a clown circus. But icebreakers would be no different than if you went into a meeting room in the office and you're saying hello to people, you're asking about their weekend, you're checking in. You can still do those things when you're working virtually. If you're having a video meeting and you're the facilitator or the leader of the meeting, make sure that you are not the person arriving last. And we all know those leaders who have too many things in their diary and they are constantly jumping from one meeting to the next. Those people need to watch my video about meetings and are constantly rushed. If you are the facilitator or the leader of the meeting, make sure that you allow enough time between meetings that you can get the meeting started in advance so that people do have that casual time at the beginning of the meeting and then also have a bit at the end. So if we're following one of my suggestions that meetings should not be 60 minutes, they should be at a maximum 50 minutes, then we should have enough padding to be able to log on to our virtual space and be there to greet the people as they come into the meeting and then hang around for a minute or two at the end without having to rush off because you've got to log on to a different Zoom call or chat room. That gives the sense of camaraderie and collaboration that we need. In addition, you can do something fun at the beginning or on the break or at the end of a meeting to help people connect and learn more about each other. However, when you do icebreakers, they should not be long, they should not be sensitive topics, and people should be allowed to opt out or pass if they choose not to participate. So those are important things. Keep them short, keep them neutral topics, and allow people to opt out if you're doing icebreakers. Here are a couple of my favorites. Have everybody hold up a picture or post in the chat or go around the room and say something that is on their bucket list. Another one I like to do, which people think is silly, but it gets a really good giggle at the beginning of a meeting, especially if we're all working from home, is have people use their mobile phone and take a picture of their feet, and then hold the picture up to the screen. Now, this is an example of one where people may opt out. They may be embarrassed that they're just wearing socks, or they don't like pictures of their feet, or they culturally don't want to do that. So this is an example of one where you can opt out, but it's a fun little game and people get giggling. Another one I do is I do bring your pet to work day. We get really sensitive about working from home. We shouldn't hear the kids, we shouldn't see the pets, the cat shouldn't be running across the keyboard. The reality is 2020 has changed our outlook, and I will admit, I was one of those people where I did not want to know that you had a life outside of work when you were logged onto your computer. But it is what it is. We're all working in small spaces, not necessarily designed to work from home, and this may continue for a while. So make it more comfortable for people. Make it okay for the cat to participate in the meeting or to be plunking around on the keyboard, because that's what cats do. Make it okay for the dog to come in and sit on the floor at the person's feet who's on the call, and do introductions. Another one I like to do is, and this is a big one, get rid of the baggage. If you think that people are coming into a meeting maybe a bit stressed or not focused, have everyone get out a scrap piece of paper or a Post-it note and ask them to write down things that are cluttering up their brain when they came into the meeting. So just give them a minute to write down anything that they were thinking about, whether it's work or personal or somewhere in between, and let them write it on a piece of paper. And then tell everybody to crumple up that piece of paper and then make a big production of everybody throwing the piece of paper away. That helps people kind of clear their minds a little bit and get ready for the meeting. Especially if they haven't watched my video about too many meetings. And again, we're going back to back. So give people that time to kind of de-stress and declutter their brains a bit before you start a meeting, especially if you need to get a lot of information out of them. So those are some icebreakers. Again, I put the link for Collaboration Superpowers over in the chat because they have a list of different collaborative activities, techniques, icebreakers, all kinds of things already compiled for you, including some of my favorites. So you can use that as a resource when you're thinking about what to do. And again, reminder, do not make this a forced, awkward activity. You want it to just be a natural flow of what you do. So it may take some practice. And then one more is making time for personal connections. So we talked about the hellos and the greetings and the lunch, talked about icebreakers, but making time for personal connections. Unless you have a team that really doesn't like each other, and then we have to question whether it's a group or a team, it's quite common for teams to do social activities together. And when they don't work in the same space, maybe some people are at the office, some people are at home, different time zones, geographies, we sometimes forget about that social component of the day and of the work environment. So come up with activities that you can do. If something that you used to do, if you were a co-located team and now you're not, was go out for pizza, have everybody get pizza. If you're the manager or leader and you have a bit of a budget, order pizza for everybody to be delivered to their home or wherever they're working, and then have your pizza party. Have everybody bring some drinks and eat their pizza and share together and create that environment. Also, another thing, one of the teams that I worked with wanted to expand their knowledge on a certain technology, and a new book had just come out. So they put together a book club, and they committed to reading 1 to 3 chapters, depending on the week, each week. And then Friday afternoon, at the end of their day, at a time that they all agreed on, they had a 30-minute book club meeting. And this was sanctioned as part of the workday. So please don't think that these activities should be piled on to the end of the day or additional hours. This was something that they were going to learn skills to bring back to the company, to benefit the company. So we made it a part of their day. It was professional development. So they had that 30 minutes on Fridays at the end of the day. You could do it at lunch. And they talked about what they learned from the book. And then they even started a wiki space to start collecting the ideas that they came up with from the book that they wanted to use on their next product. So I strongly encourage you to get creative with the ideas that you're doing and really think through how can the teams connect in a way that still promotes the work that needs to be done, but that gives them the space to grow as a collaborative team. So a quick recap, we talked about the greetings at the beginning of the day, middle of the day, announcing you're going to lunch or stepping away. Icebreakers that you can do at the beginning of meetings, including the one where we're going to write down and throw away our baggage. And then the third one was actually creating virtual events, having pizza, coffee, a book club, things like that that emulate a social circumstance or social situation. So I hope that those were useful. We could go on and on about this topic because there are so many ideas that we can put into place. And this is something that we spend a whole session on in the Power Up Your Team collaboration, where we come up with a list of activities that are appropriate for your environment, and we brainstorm what will and won't work with the environment that you have, so that when you leave the program, you have things that you can put in place right away. As usual, I will see you back here again next week for live number 4 in the series. And we are going to be talking about retrospectives next week and how we can use them to inspect and adapt. And if you don't know what a retrospective is, I would encourage you to tune in because you will find that it is a valuable tool no matter what work environment you have created. Also, you know how to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you feel like you need to have a private chat about the topics that we've been discussing to help get yourself unstuck, let me know and I'll send you a Calendly link. And I hope to see you on all of our socials connecting with us on all the great topics that we're bringing to you. Thanks and see you next week, everybody.